Hello everyone, today's video is going to be a bit different to what I was expecting to make when I was recording this yesterday, but unfortunately, things happen in karting that you just sometimes can't control, and today was one of those days. I hadn't been to Camberley in quite a while, so I was actually really excited to get back on the track. It was probably the track I was most confident on, it was the one I'd been to the most and had the most track time on, so I knew my way around it, and I was just excited to get going. But, for some reason, since I hadn't been here for so long, I felt like actual garbage the first time I was sitting in the car. I just felt so empty, like I just didn't want to be there, I just didn't know what was going on. Just lightheaded, I was not in the groove, and it was really, really weird. But fortunately, you're about to see me go out on track in session 1, where not a lot happened, but I basically went from the back of a 20 kart grid to the front, because this grid was quite particularly slow today. So session 1 was actually quite boring because I didn't overtake anyone, I just passed people because I was faster. So nothing really happened this session, but session 2 was where things got a bit more interesting. As you can see from this little bit of onboard footage from session 1, it wasn't the world's best weather. It wasn't as bad as Forest Edge last week, but it wasn't great. But by UK standards, we were pretty lucky. Nothing really happened again this session, like I said, just putting in laps, just getting refreshed. But what did happen was about halfway through this session, something just clicked and I was moving at warp speed. I was pushing quite to the limit, just trying as hard as I could, and kind of got back in that groove, which would set me up for session 2. Now, what would actually end up happening for session 2 was that I would move into the experienced group. So right now I'm in the novice class because I don't have my license yet. But at Camberley, what group you're in is more dependent on speed. If you are fast enough and you feel like you want to move up, you can. So that's what I did. I had a couple friends there that were telling me to move up because my lap times when I was in clean air was good enough. So after I moved into that group, that was quite a bit of fun. Obviously, I was now on the pace of some guys that were very similar to me, and I was pushing like absolute crazy to stick with them, just to kind of get a reference point for if I was as fast as the race guys. And first half of the session was good. Second half, you'll find out. Now we can move into session 2. The first thing that you're probably going to realise is that it's a much sunnier day, and the track had been used after the first couple sessions, so it had a bit more grip on it, and again that was helped by the added heat. The only difference from my driving point was that I was pushing like absolute crazy this session, and you might even be able to just to see that from the recording. I was pushing as hard as I could. These two guys up ahead of me were the two people that I was talking to tell me to move up into this group, and they were the two people that I'd been talking to whilst basically from the start of my karting career. So I knew these two quite well, and I knew what results they did on race day, so I thought if I could keep up with them, then I'd have a decent shot when it came to race day, because I had no benchmark at this point. So I was pushing like crazy, and I beat my PB on multiple occasions, and we found out when I'm quick, I'm quite consistent. So I had all of my lap times within 3/10 of each other, and that was even when I made mistakes, so that was good. My 3 fastest laps were all within under a tenth of each other, which was good. And yeah, just my lap times were all really consistent this session. Unfortunately, I did have some moments where I slid it into the grass at the exit of the final corner on the chicane. But as you can see, I was catching up to these guys now, and again, I was just still pushing like absolute hell. These two were fighting, which enabled me to kind of pull them in a bit and just gain some time on them. But the session was drawing to a close. I knew I wasn't exactly going to overtake them, but I was in good spirits for the next session where I knew I would be able to catch them. And there you can see me just going onto the grass. And that really ruined this corner up here, as you can see. I just didn't manage to take anywhere near as much speed through it. So, unfortunately, we can move to the worst side of karting now. So I skip forward a bit, because this kind of just happens for a while now. And I'll show you what happens when things just go wrong. And so there it went. From about 10,000 RPM to 0 in probably under a tenth of a second, my engine had just blown up. Now, I didn't realise this at the time, and because of how my engine stopped, and it stopped so quickly, I thought I'd hit my chain on something. You can see me there. I kind of just shift my body to the right to try and look at my chain coming into the pits. Now, my first big concern was that I looked at that chain, and it was still perfectly intact. It was still moving. So I thought, oh, okay, the battery's just gone. Because the way the engine stopped honestly just sounded like I'd turned the battery off. I just turned it off after coming into the pits normally. Well, we tried to turn it on, and as you're about to hear...
Try and start it.
Yep, the battery wasn't the issue either. You heard the starter motor go, nothing. So at this point, I thought, we've been told that these engines could just go bang spontaneously with absolutely no warning and nothing you could do about it. And I think it's at this point that I realised that was exactly what had happened. I think I had realised that my engine just went. Right, session 4 went absolutely catastrophically. We also found part of our piston inside our airbox, which means it went through the carb and into the airbox, and the airbox rattles of metal. This thing is just done for. It's I think new engine is on the list. So whilst taking the engine off, we had a bit of waterfall at the bottom. We found out where it's coming from. The hole in the bottom. Oh, they're quite something, these engines.
All engines gone bang before now.
Any quite like this? Aye. Yeah. Ouch. So where will that be on the track? Oh my god.
Yeah, that's out there.
Do we even eat any of that? I don't eat. Oh my god. I'm not sure if I mentioned, but there's probably pieces of metal all throughout the exhaust as well. Conrod, bottom of the piston, some of the piston, that bearing, that will all be on the track. God help someone's tyres if they hit it, but not our day. Well, after that catastrophe, the only logical solution was to take it to an engine builder to see what, if, could be recovered. Long story short, not much. But you're about to see some photos of the inside of our engine when he took it apart for us. Now, the ironic bit of all of this was that it was our first engine that I've ever blown up. And I say first, I'm hoping I don't blow up a second, but I'm sure it will happen at some point. Now, an event took place, and you can see a photo of it on screen now, that is apparently so rare that the engine builder that has been building engines for over a decade and does about 200 a year had to take a photo of it because he has never seen it before. So apparently that's quite rare. And, yeah, that was quite something, but unfortunately that was our day cut short, and now we're going to have to work on getting a new engine. Well, I hope you enjoyed this little insight about what happens when Motorsport goes wrong, because I certainly didn't record it. In fact, I had to push myself to record this because I'm so bummed after yesterday, I cannot be asked to do anything. But there we have it, the downsides of Motorsport, and fortunately this can teach you guys something about the down days. And if your engine suddenly goes bang on track, it's probably not your chain or your battery.